Hello folks and welcome to Heart and Hand Extra, the second weekly free pod from us here at Heart and Hand. My name's David Edgar, I'm your host as always, and joining me this week was the man with whom I watched the match at Ibrox the other evening, so my main stand buddy, Mr. Cameron James Bell. Hello Cammy.
David, how are you today?
I am good, my friend. A lot to unpack from this game. A lot of good stuff from a Rangers point of view on the field, and of course, it wouldn't be a Rangers victory without some nonsense off the field as well to get into. But we'll start off with a positive point: a 5-0 victory for Rangers. And it's funny because walking into the ground, you and I were discussing that we were actually pretty confident because Rangers do react well. When the manager asks for a reaction, we've proven that we're good at going and doing that. The problem, of course, long term is that we keep needing to have reactions, which is obviously the problem. But in terms of a one-off performance, I thought it was everything we didn't see on Saturday. I thought it was incisive. I thought it was quick. That's probably the key thing. I thought we just moved the ball a lot quicker. I thought we won our physical battles all over the field. And of course, we had the cherry on top of the cake. The real bit of quality, the best player in Scotland currently, Alfredo Morelos, who just blew them away.
Yeah, I mean, it was all in all an absolutely fantastic performance. Although you're right, we were confident being able to get into it. I thought that when we saw the team line up, we kind of thought, McCrory might be a bit of a miss. But actually, when you were watching the game as it kind of started to unfold and as it started to kind of open up a bit, I had this kind of thought ringing through my head of this is the most important game in Kilmarnock season now. And they absolutely did not turn up to it. Obviously, events didn't go their way, which we'll obviously about to cover. But there is absolutely nothing pre-match, during the game or post-match that can take away from what was a superb Rangers performance.
Correct. And like I say, I think that tactically we were pretty similar to what we saw at the weekend. The difference, of course, was that we just moved everything a lot quicker. And it was even the guys in midfield, when they got the ball, okay, they might pass it sideways, but it was first time sideways. And I know that sounds silly, but it was just intent was there right from the off. And we saw that with the opening goal because everything about that goal, the ball that Tav, first of all, he wins the ball, but the ball that he plays through to Candace, it takes out the defender. It's got him turning. It's saying to Candace, on you go. Candace gets there, smashes across a perfect ball, which he didn't manage at all on Saturday. And there, of course, the deadly striker at the back post to put it away. And in that move, I thought it encapsulated the difference between Rangers when we're on it and when we're not.
I mean, it totally does. And I think it was really strange because there was times, and as you and I were kind of talking, where there was some first touch passing which went a little bit astray. But when you look at Tav's ball to Candace, it has to go through, I think, 3 men. Mm-hmm. It is inch perfect. The pace is sublime. Candace, to use old cliche, is already on his bike because he knows where the ball is going to be. And it's going to be put to him in such a pace that he can deliver a really difficult ball to defend against on a first-time touch. And obviously Alfie sniffing out like the predator that he is. And I think it was bizarre because you saw that kind of change up where you kind of thought, right, well, sometimes we can play in decent wee bits and bobs. But when you saw that real quality of being able to see that through ball from Tav, it was fantastic. And again, I really don't want to take away from the fact that it was a good bit of kind of fight that you had to show to go back, get that ball, stick in that tackle, and then look forward. And then it just felt a lot slicker to me to what we saw at the weekend, because as soon as he gets that ball, he's immediately thinking, right, how do I use this to penetrate as quickly as I possibly can, but as effectively as I possibly can as well. It's not just like a high cross into the back post or whatever.
No, I think that's key. I think that's the word. It was just mentally to me. It was mentality. It was, as you say, win ball, right, what can I do to make something happen? Where does this ball need to go quickly? There was none of the indecision followed by the extra touch, followed by the space closing down that we saw. And into the second half, Rangers continued. I mean, we got the second goal at a really, really good time. Again, another superb ball from Candace. 2-0. That changes it. Kelly, for once, have to come out, which they're not set up to do. And it's funny when Steve Clarke gets all this praise. I mean, he is very good, clearly, at setting up a team to play a certain way. But if you do get the lead on them, they're going to struggle badly because they are not in any way equipped to deal with that, as we saw last night. And Rangers just roared into the space for the rest of the half. They were having fun. They kept going right to the end. They clearly wanted some goals. Morelos' performance, though, Cammy, it included a perfect hat-trick, but he didn't stop there as he then added a fourth as well. He was sublime last night, absolutely sparkling, and he is playing with a confidence, but it's not something that you think is just a temporary boost to him. It's just this knowledge that he's better than everybody, and he works harder. But the physical strength, the touch, the direct, the desperation to get forward and have a shot. He's such an exciting player. He was so good last night.
Oh, he was. Listen, you hit the nail on the head, Dave. He's the best player in Scotland. And as I've made reference to previously on our pods on here and also on the Patreon site, I love at times the negative press that he gets, because see if everyone in the country, including the media, hyped him up the same way that they did with Dembele, he wouldn't be at Rangers right now. We would have sold him in the window. And it's great because everyone feels as if, he's got such negative attributes at all. When you see the overwhelming amount of positive attributes that he does have, it allows us the opportunity to retain a quality player. And don't get me wrong, I think we'll be exceptionally lucky if we keep a hold of him in the summer and he's still a Rangers player come next season. However, that being said, the other thing that Morelos brings to the team is the confidence and comfort that the players around him, and you saw this especially with the first two goals, that his teammates know where he's going to be. He just provides with them a reassurance that, look, if you stick this in, just get it into a difficult position for them to defend, and I'll get on the other end of it.
And I'll do the rest. Yes.
It is, and I think, we've spoken many a time about the Candeas and Tavernier partnership, etc. Morelos almost provides that to his other teammates on a kind of individual perspective, where he can then say to them, look, you know where I'll be, so if you can get it to me, I'll do what needs to be done. And that, I think, again, like I say, just gives everyone that kind of that chance to say, right, well, listen, do you know what? Actually, rather than dithering and struggling to be able to try and put in crosses or thinking twice, actually, let's just play it first time. Let's see where it goes. And Alfredo's in the end of it. So it's great. And I don't think there's a Rangers fan who doesn't love the sight of Alfredo Morelos bobbing his head to his
Yes, song, I love that. It's one of my favourite sights. And last night he did the whole "this is my yard" thing with pointing to the and it is. He was sublime. He absolutely owned the place last night. A terrific performance. Aided and abetted, I thought, by two really good midfield performances from Glen Kamara and Ryan Jack. Ryan Jack, who the manager had told us before wasn't fully fit, but if he could make it onto the park, he was getting put on, and I think he showed why. I think he is settling into that slightly more forward role, which he could do because Glen Kamara behind him was terrific. He is one of these midfielders who you look at and you think, he's quite a tall, thin guy, but he's deceptively powerful and strong. He reads the game superbly. We've seen that even in his opening two matches. The amount of time he just nips in and gets the ball and tidies something up. But he uses the ball well. I noticed watching the game back, there's an awful lot of forward passes and central forward passes. One thing at the weekend we badly lacked was we just went down the wings constantly. Whereas both him and Ryan Jack last night, yeah, they would go wide, of course, because we've got, good fullbacks, good wide players. But we mixed it up, and that meant that Kelly couldn't just set for the one thing the way that St Johnstone could. I was really impressed with both of these guys last night. I don't want to get too carried away about Glen Kamara because I was pretty carried away about Lassana Koulibaly at the start of the season when he put in a few impressive performances, and I thought, right, he's that type of player that we need. But Kamara has certainly done enough to make you think at his start that, okay, yep, I see you do have ability, that's why you're here, and hopefully he can build on that.
Yeah, I think watching it last night, so I think it's two things. The first thing is I think that Ryan Jack, I feel personally carried the ball forward very well yesterday through the middle. It wasn't a case of him being able to try and gather and then, as you say, then put out to the wing, etc. Actually, there was a good number of occasions where he carried the ball forward 10 or 15 yards, which I think Gerrard is trying to encourage him more to do because he does have the capability to do it.
He does, yeah. And I'll admit, at the start of the season, I maybe doubted he did. I think he maybe doubted he did.
Yeah, no, he probably did, yeah.
We're seeing this now as the confidence is growing. I think he's becoming a more rounded midfield player. Yeah.
Kamara, for me, I feel was given the job to deal with Malumbu. And I think for me, So I thought Malumbu was very poor last night, I'll be honest, but I've seen him be excellent in games. And I wouldn't have necessarily minded if 18 months ago we had potentially tabled a bid for him, because I actually thought, there was times where he was by far and away Kilmarnock's best player, and he looked like very much a controlling midfielder. Kamara completely removed all kind of influence that he had last night. And as I say, I'm not decrying the fact that Malumbu was on point and Kamara matched him. Actually, I think Malumbu was very, very poor, but he was poor because Kamara gave him absolutely no space or quarter whatsoever. His physical presence, as you say, is very good for a guy who doesn't necessarily have what appears to be an obvious frame to do what he can do. Mm-hmm. But he absolutely bossed Malumbu off the ball. And I think, as I said to you during the game, there was a point to that where I think we were sitting maybe 30, 35 minutes and he looked absolutely shattered.
He did. Malumbu looked as though he was spent, and it was just chasing Kamara that had done
it. It was. And Kamara, I don't even think he'd really kind of... he probably hadn't even broken sweat by that point. And that's, again, like I say, because he was able to dominate that. He was able to control it. Very, very positive. What I will say is, I know, and we've seen it, obviously I've heard the post-match in the site last night with you guys, and reading some stuff on social media. Did very, very well, but let's put that into some context. Let's get some games behind them. Let's get some, consistent performances in.
Yeah.
But if it's anything like that, then, absolutely a very, very savvy purchase.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the 50 grand to get him in now was justified last night just by getting through this cup tie, and his performance helped us do that. So, but like I say, I've been here before, quite recently, with Koulibaly, who I thought was going to be that type of player for us. And I think that the manager's made up his mind on Koulibaly as well, which is why Kamara was brought, because now he's like, well, he didn't do that and we still need someone to do that, and hopefully Kamara can be that guy. Right, moving on then to the controversial incidents from the match. Now, the first one came very early, a penalty shout for Kilmarnock when Eamon Brophy went down in the box, tussle with Joe Worrell. At the time, happened right in front of us. You and I both thought, we got away with one there. Watching it back, though, there is contact, no doubt about it. I would have screamed for it at the other end, 100%. But Brophy doesn't aid his case because he throws himself to the ground in a way that you don't go down from a tug by by falling forward dramatically at pace. And I think the referee's seen that and went, nah, he's at it. So I have limited sympathy, especially because I think we all know that had Morelos done exactly the same as Brophy did under the exact same challenge, all we would hear about is diving went down far too easy. Whereas instead, you'd think that it was the stonewallery as penalties, and I don't believe it was. At the time, in real time, and that therefore, I can see why Kilmarnock and their officials on their bench were aggrieved, because at the time we thought it was a penalty. But looking back, I'd probably say that I can see why the referee didn't give it.
No, for me, it was very reminiscent. I don't know if you'll remember the challenge I'm talking about, John Hartson in the Scottish Cup final, where he has this thing where it looks like as if the bottom half of his body has just completely given out from under him, which looks absolutely ridiculous when you see it in real time. And that, for me, is what Brophy does last night, because Worrell's holding him across his midriff. He's holding him across his stomach, right? But the thing is, Brophy looks like as if he's just been swiped out from under his legs. Mm. So when he goes down, it looks as if Worrell has kicked him, which he didn't do. If he wanted to get that penalty, and by the way, just to come back to your Morelos point, if that happened to Alfredo Morelos last night, he would have been booked for simulation. Let's make no fucking qualms about that.
And the press would be going on about dive,
dive, exactly, etc. But Brophy looks, he moves as if, like you say, he's had his legs taken out from under him, which is absolutely foolish. I mean, it's stupid. It looks like he slipped in the turf. Goes down, claiming it, obviously. What he should have done, if he wanted to play the game a bit smarter, is just show the fact that Worrell was impeding him.
I go backwards.
Even go backwards, but basically look as if he's trying to run, but he's being held, so therefore can't get to the ball. And see if he did that, he probably would have got the penalty, because that's the realistic thing of what was happening. No one was touching him below his waist.
Yeah, if a guy briefly puts his arm on you, you can maybe claim you're impeded. What you can't claim is you've been, as you say, had your legs removed and launched forward.
It's the same thing when you see wingers. Yeah, absolutely. But when you see wingers going forward and defenders touching their shoulder, what you'll also see is wingers, I mean, your body will twist as you're falling to the ground, and that's because you've been impeded at that part of your body. And what would happen with Brophy last night, and as I say, if he'd been smarter, was it's almost as if he was being held back, like as if Worrell would have a grasp of his shirt. Now, Brophy did have a grasp of Worrell's shirt, I might add, which is neither here nor there. But because he just goes down so theatrically, and again, like I say, because it makes it look like as if he's been swiped, he nullifies his own case. So no, it wasn't a penalty. I would absolutely have seen how it could have been given, if I'm being honest. But no, on replays, etc. No, that's it. And again, probably very similar to the next incident we're going to talk about.
Yeah, the next incident was, of course, a red card for the Kilmarnock keeper, Bachman Turner Overdrive. He was sent off after an incident. Now, you and I were sitting at the Copeland end of the main stand, and we're not going to lie, folks, we didn't have a fucking clue what had gone on, because all we see is we hear the noise from the fans in the Broomloan. We see Kamara is down. We don't quite know. We see Alfie is in and around it. He was quite upset by the challenge, and people are getting him out. And didn't think anything more of it. People our age, I know some younger bears have asked why it wasn't a penalty because the ball wasn't in play. We learned that at Ziskov all those years ago when a very similar thing happened, and we were screaming for a penalty and didn't know. So that's why that rule was imprinted in our heads. But the next thing, he's sent off, and I must admit we're scratching our head. Normally what you can do if you're at the game and you don't have a good view is you can text a mate who's watching on the telly, but that wasn't possible last night, so we weren't quite sure what had gone on. And again, you came home now. Premier Sports were covering the match, and God love them, they have about 4 cameras, so they only had one angle on it, where it looks when you'd seen it. And I saw it very briefly just before the post-match last night on a phone, on Twitter, not the best. And to be honest, I thought, he's a wee bit harsh there. That's I think the boy's been unlucky. Even then, though, I thought I can see why the linesman at that angle thought he's elbowed him. Someone said another angle, a much more central one, and it's a Stonewall red card. He has seen Kamara coming in. The guy behind Kamara is shoving him. Kamara's just standing his ground, and the next thing, Bachman just thrusts up his elbow into his face deliberately. It's a red card. It's not a particularly vicious shot to the face, but I can see why, when you weren't expecting it, it would knock you down as it did. But to me, Cameron, this Stonewall red card, I'm sorry, we're told it's got nothing to do with whether or not you absolutely clock him. It's intent, and he intended to hit him with his elbow.
Well, he did, and last night we were watching it, and again, as I say, we're watching this drama unfold, and Bachman's claiming his case about what's going on, and then you see the red card going straight up, and then you had said to me, you don't see that often, and then I turned to you and I said, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Yes,
well done. Yes, you had to go some to construct that gag. But
I did, well. and I hope that the listeners appreciate the lengths I had to go to the. It's bizarre because again, it's one of those things where you're fortunate you get different angles, because if you look at it from there's a TV camera shot which is in front of the Broomloan by the keeper's right hand post, and you can see through the net, through the side net. And what it appears is, and I know that Bachman, because I obviously watched the replay last night as well, when he's going off, he's gesticulating towards the bench, that he was raising his arms. And if you look at that angle through the side net, that is what it looks like he's doing. And then you're kind of thinking, well, no, I think Kamara's maybe made a meal of it. However, if you then look at it from the camera angle, which is probably from the main stand, and where Alan Main, the referee, is probably looking towards it, what you don't see from the first angle is how quickly he brings up his arm, which is unnecessary, because he does go with a degree of force.
And he crooks it. He crooks it into what you would call an elbow. It's not just shoving your arm straight up. He crooks his elbow in a way that we all know, let's be honest, I don't think he's trying to break his jaw, don't get me wrong, but he wants to leave one on him. He's basically saying, fuck off, get out of this space. But you can't do that.
No, you can't, and not in a bad way, but let's say if we're prepared to take that corner, and how many times have we ever seen this, Davey, where the keeper just turns around and just pushes the guy away from him, and then the referee stops the corner being taken, tells it to him to screw the nut, and then that's it. Just listen, how many times have we ever seen that in football? And I think that Bagman, when he starts to lift his arm and he looks like as if he's going to go and do it, he does catch him. He absolutely does catch him. So now I don't know if this has been clarified, because I have heard mixed reports about this as to whether or not it was the linesman or the referee.
It was the linesman. It was the linesman who gave it.
So, I mean, obviously we haven't seen it from this angle, of course, and again, I mean, having seen it from what we have seen, I think it's a justifiable decision, right? I will say that. But if that linesman has seen it at that point, I've got to assume he's seen it with a degree of pace, and where obviously it makes contact with the right hand side of Kamara's face, because as my understanding is, it's not his elbow, it's his tricep, it's his upper arm at the the kind of above the elbow that hits Kamara in the face, and then he goes down, and then I think that's it. And as I say, if it's excessive, which from the speed of him moving his arm up, you're right, he does want to leave one on him. So no, I think a justifiable red card, stupidity, and again completely unnecessary. So there you go.
Yeah, and like I say, we at the time couldn't have given you much comment on it in the ground. We didn't really see it, so we were waiting to see. The first replay I didn't think was conclusive, but the second one clearly was. And I think a stonewall red card. And to be honest, had it been our goalkeeper, I probably wouldn't have complained. And when you see, of course, that Alan McGregor recently got banned for something similar, which is in the goalkeeper code, then, yep, it happens. We were told with McGregor that the whole protecting yourself doesn't give you the right to to danger another player, endanger even. And that's what happened here. Now, all of this combined to break the Kilmarnock manager, Steve Clarke, who appeared to cry during his press conference and in his interview with Premier Sports did look like a child who'd just been told that they weren't getting an extra scoop of ice cream. He had a big frown and he had genuinely a petted lip, and he looked as though he'd been crying. Firstly, Steve, it's a game of football. Fuck up. And secondly, it was hilarious. But he also complained that he was on the end of sectarian abuse from the Rangers support, where very briefly towards the end, a number of songs, a number of fans, nowhere near all, did sing to Steve Clarke, "Cheer up, Steve Clarke, oh, what can it be?" We all know the song. And he complained about this and said, it's terrible. And that, of course, and made sure that was the story that the media ran with. Now, where this slightly fell down for me was Steve Clarke had been asked the day before about Kilmarnock's club captain Chris Boyd being on the end of those chants from the Celtic support at the game at the weekend. The exact same chant, just, if you like, from the other side of the divide, just with one word changed, but still, a sectarian song. His response had been that he just wanted to talk about the football. And that has led to accusations from Rangers supporters that he is guilty himself of selectarianism, which is certain issues really matter and certain ones don't. The side of the divide it really should be applied to and the other that it shouldn't. And I have sympathy for that point of view, because while he's quite right, if he's the subject of sectarian abuse, he should, it's a total own goal by Rangers fans to sing that. It's only going to cause problems for the club and give our enemies a stick to beat us. But I do find it very hypocritical. You either have a problem with sectarian chanting or you don't. And the fact that he has half a problem with it makes me think that it's full outrage, makes me think it was a deflection, makes me think he wasn't genuine, and makes me less inclined to have sympathy for him, even though he may have merit in his original point. It's hard to think he is being 100% honest.
He's not been honest. He's not been honest at all. We all know, everyone in Scotland knows he's on the world's longest job interview. And listen, I totally agree with you, right? There's points here where we shouldn't give our enemies ammunition, right? I do understand that. There is also another point where there was other songs getting sung at him by parts of the stadium who he waved at as a kind of mocking, all that kind of stuff. So he's picking and choosing what he wishes to be offended by. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. because what offends you might not offend me, and vice versa. So that's just human nature. That's just the way it goes. The problem we've got here is that within his position and the profile with which he carries himself, he can't pick and choose which sectarian singing offends him and then choose not to comment on other. Because either it's all offensive and it all needs to be stamped out, or it's quite clearly just been targeted towards one particular club and its fans. And I would like to, and the other problem with this is no one in the media is saying, well, why didn't you condemn Celtic fans?
Correct.
Like your player did.
Yeah,
And
when
actually,
your club captain received exactly the same abuse, in fact, worse because he was hit by a coin, where were you then? You didn't want to know.
Exactly. And I think my big thing with this, David, right, and listen, you and I are, I think, quite similar to this. If you want to tackle quite a horrible subject, you can mock it. You can almost take the piss out of it so it becomes unfashionable to do it. We've seen things like that happen before, right, where I think Boyd probably had a pretty good, response to it, because obviously he got hit with a coin.
He made them look like morons. He made them look stupid. Yeah, you're right.
And then he's obviously talking about he gets the arm in the sling and all the rest of it and stuff as well, and just as a bit of a joke. But he's underlining a serious point, right? But I think that everyone would have roundly mocked him had he been hit with a coin and then 5 minutes later fell to the floor.
Yes.
Now that still doesn't take away from the fact that when he was asked a direct question about sectarian signs, Steve Clarke chose not to answer it. He said, I just want to talk about the football. Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, here's what we'll do. We will talk about the football then. Why is it in the most important game of your club's season you couldn't muster one shot on goal? Not one. Now, I was actually thinking about this. And I know you and I spoke about it during the game last night, right? But if you take everything into context, if you had said to me, I wasn't able to see what happened from the red card to seeing the final result, okay, which actually for some fans might have happened. But what I would have assumed would have been, okay, so the keeper gets sent off, they're down to 10 men, they're 2-0 down, you're just going to have to come at them. You're just going to have to put everything against them and then empty your tank. Kilmarnock were absolutely rudderless last night. They had no default alternate plan to go to, so had such a contingency occurred. And the worst thing about this was as well, he won't acknowledge any of that. Not a single shot on goal. Why are Kilmarnock fans saying, right, so are you saying that we lost because Rangers fans sang songs against you? Is that actually what you're telling us? Because his press conference, his post-match press conference last night was embarrassing. If I was a Kilmarnock fan watching that, I'd be like, that is nothing whatsoever to do with how weak a performance my team put in against Rangers last night. So he has bigger questions to answer to the Kilmarnock fans, much less the fact that any Kilmarnock fan worth their salt, I mean, I don't know if they want to keep him or not, right? He's obviously done very well at Kilmarnock, but the amount he's pandering to Celtic and, by default, the Celtic support is embarrassing. It's actually embarrassing. So as far as I'm concerned, he needs to come out and say all sectarian singing from all clubs has to be wiped out, or he just can't talk about it again. Because now what he's done is he's now made himself look like an absolute joke in this. And his opinion, in my opinion now, should not be merited. It shouldn't be heard.
He also made a bit of a fool of himself by saying when he was spoken to by Rangers about the job, which you'll recall in the summer he denied. He said that there had been no contact from Rangers. So he's lied at one point. And that just damages his credibility further. And I saw a few journalists actually tweeting comments around that last night. Just the story, his quotes at the time, his quotes from last night. And I know for a fact that there are several journalists who feel that he blatantly lied to them about this situation and made them look stupid. So I don't think he did himself any favour. I'll be honest, Cammy. If a Rangers manager acted the way he did last night, to me it was reminiscent of Murty with the biting the lip and nearly in tears. And he was savagely criticised by the Rangers support for the way he conducted himself. I was embarrassed when Murty did it, and I would be embarrassed. I just found it hilarious because it was Clarke, but I would be embarrassed if I was a Kilmarnock fan and saw my manager responding in that fashion. He was like a petulant child.
And the worst thing about it is, though, listen, David, we're not daft, right? As a Scottish footballing public, we're not daft. And do you know what he could have done? He could have come out, and even if he'd caveat it by saying, Rangers absolutely deserved their victory. We were garbage. They were brilliant. I've got too many concerns about my own players and how we performed, etc., etc. However, this element of this support, the singing, etc., is unacceptable. Never even said it. Never ever said anything to do with his own team's performance. And listen, we know that managers are not going to come out and throw players under the bus, right? Nobody expects that. But you can't come out and justify not even talking about such a lacklustre performance. Because, as you and I said yesterday, Kilmarnock had a brilliant away support last night. Probably all of Kilmarnock.
Yes.
And the vast majority of their season ticket holders.
Certainly the non-junkie ones.
No, well, yeah, exactly. But those fans made that effort to be able to, and what you hear from your manager is, yeah, we've just been pumped out the cup 5-0, not a shot on target. Players look like they can't be arsed. Malumbu looks like he couldn't give two shits. Knackered after 20 minutes. No, but it was the sectarian singing that's the reason as to why we're not progressing to the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. That's not good enough. And Kilmarnock fans have to really start asking questions about that now.
No, I think instead that one of the lines he used, he said, "There's no point talking about the football after the penalty decision." It's like, no, I don't think it was. I don't think you're allowed to say we didn't get a penalty in the first minute, therefore we just gave up. But that seemed to be his attitude last night. But yep, a clear deflection tactic from a hypocrite and someone who has outed himself as a liar. So it's very hard to take him seriously, and I'm not even going to try. Moving on then, Cammy, Rangers will play Hamilton at the weekend. Now, I know several Rangers fans who said I'm more worried about that match than I am about the Kilmarnock match before last night because we knew we would get a reaction. What we need is the players to not swan into this match thinking, we're brilliant and 3 points are guaranteed. We need the same level of effort and commitment.
100%. And I think when you see that slick passing, that forward thinking and that aggression almost is probably the best way I can put it. We need to make sure that we continue to do that and not miss Morelos too much, which, let's face it, we are going to. Proved it again last night. But we really do need to be able to get control of that game quickly. And it's the second goal. It's always the second goal, Dave. It's always so crucial. And I think last night, for me, there was a little bit of us taking our foot off the gas after the first goal.
The second half, you'd noticed they wanted more goals. You can see it. You can tell the difference.
Yeah, it's almost the second goal is like the fulcrum, and I think that once you get into that, and once obviously you go 2 goals ahead, you've got that confidence and that platform to go. Whereas before, and you're only sitting with a single goal lead, then you're very shaky, and I think that's something that we need to be able to try and get more. A little bit more ruthless with and be a little bit more lethal. So, again, like I say, hopefully we can maintain that tempo. And listen, we've spoken a lot about Steve Clarke, we've spoken a lot about everyone. We absolutely deserved that last night. We were a great team performance last night, excellent to a man, including the substitutes, by the way, as well, one of which scored, obviously. But what I will say is that is the standard that we now have to reach to. That wasn't the same standard as we beat Celtic with, but actually that's the same that we can put against other teams in order to be able to get results.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, folks, that's going to do us for Heart and Hand Extra this week. Apologies to those of you who get your podcasts from Apple. The first pod this week was delayed going up there. I apologise for that. There was an issue that has been fixed. I'd just like to thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Paul Myers, and to tell you that if you like what you hear from Heart and Hand here, for just $1.99 per month, you can get up to 5 shows every single day from us over on our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/Heart and Hand. My thanks to my wonderful guests, Mr. Cameron James Bell.
David, a pleasure as always.
And we'll be back next week, hopefully to discuss more Gers victories. Until then, you have a great weekend. Speak to you again soon. Cheers. Bye.